Ever since Tibet's invasion by the Chinese military forces in 1959, education has emerged as one of the most critical tools for survival and the preservation of our culture, history, and identity. Venerable Geshe Lhakdor is a scholar and a teacher with over 30 years of experience and continues to work extensively in the field of education. He currently serves as the director of the Library of Tibetan Works and Archives and the chair of the 12th Tibetan Education Council in Exile. Geshe is with us today to discuss the Tibetan education system in exile, its current status, and the significance of strengthening the system. Welcome to our program, Geshe. Geshe, I would like to begin with a question that may look simple, but what is your understanding of the term education, and what do you think is the significance of having an established system in our Tibetan community in exile?
Education for me is not literacy. It's not equal to reading, writing, and mathematics. Education is for human flourishing. And so therefore, in order to have a comprehensive form of education, which includes both the traditional system of education and modern system of education, it is important to have the involvement of not only small organizations, but bigger organizations like the government, having proper planning. Today, not only in the Tibetans in exile, but in many countries, they are complaining because even with the change of government, the new president or prime minister, whoever comes, really does not have much idea what should be the actual process of education, which will help students not only learn few textbooks, but who are able to, spend their life in a meaningful purpose, getting proper jobs, things like that. So therefore, it is important to have a proper government with education, department, who almost like specializes in the field of education, explores the current status versus the past, system of education, and come up with a plan so that our children are, come up with a way of life which is easily adaptable to the changing situation of the world.
As the chair of the Education Council, coming to our system, where do you think our education system stands today, and what do you think is something that maybe we can learn from the Indian or the Western education system, or something that they can learn from ours?
There are good things and bad things in every education system. In our education system, one very good thing that the government is doing is unlike many other countries. For example, in India, the percentage of the money, government, money spent on education is only 4%. Whereas in our education system, it is over 30%, which is really astounding. But despite of such financial commitment, still on the ground, the proper child education is not coming up as we are expecting. So this itself clearly shows that there is something missing. And to me, what is missing is it is more and more difficult to get experienced teachers who not only have the experience in terms of age, but also in terms of how to deal with students, especially when it comes to younger children. The teachers should be somebody who has a good knowledge of the child psychology, which is not very much there. So education is taken as a kind of imparting what you have memorized, and let the children also memorize that. That is not going to work. Education means let children think for themselves, find a way for themselves. So, because sooner or later they have to find their way in this complex world. So that must be taught. I think many things like that are lacking. So therefore, like any field or any kind of leadership, the most important commitment is having love for the children and having a good sense of responsibility and commitment, which is not easy.
So, Geshe, as you said in your answer, exile government is spending a considerable amount of money on education, yet we still do not see the result that we envision. But I also think that critical thinking, as you said, is very important for a teacher to develop in children right from the beginning, right?
Yeah.
So do you think we see that as a dominant teaching method in schools today? If not, why do you think is the reason?
When it comes to giving the actual education, it's not as easy as we think. One is, as I said, there should be the school environment, having all kind of facilities that facilitates their study, makes their life easier, feel like coming to school. Those things are just things should be there, but I don't know how much that is also there. Although, as I said, we spend a lot of money for the infrastructure. And then another thing is we are compelled to study a curriculum which is based on the Indian system of education, which we cannot change. And the teacher and children have to, complete that course within specified period to be able to go for exam and things like that. So there are a lot of hurdles also. During this recent Education Council meeting, I have clearly mentioned that it is really important to appoint a group of people to do a proper research in which area we are lagging behind, what is it that is missing. So I still feel that is very, very important.
Right, so Geshe, speaking of quality education, besides the research committee, what do you think that we can do more to ensure quality education?
Quality education, as I said, the commitment of the teacher. Because the teacher's role is not just finish the course, but they should, teach the children in such a way that whatever they are teaching, the child is able to understand that, the child is able to imbibe that, and able to remember that and implement that. In most of cases, that doesn't happen. The teacher comes to the class and shouts and teaches, maybe working very hard for 1 hour, and normally we don't really see how much the children are picking up. So that's the problem. So therefore, it's really important to make sure that each and every individual has got what you're teaching, has understood what you're teaching. It may be just 2 words, it may be 2 sentences. If you make that perfect, then that will give them more enthusiasm to study further. Then the teacher may not have to work very hard. Unless you are able to spark that interest, it will be very difficult.
So speaking of teachers, the Department of Education is organizing a lot of teaching workshops for the teachers. Even after that, why do you think we do not see the result that we want?
Unless the teachers or the person individually develops that motivation within himself or herself, no amount of training works. And that willingness to do something, that commitment for your children, for your nation will come only when you have a clear sight of what the country, what the nation is passing through today. What is happening in Tibet itself, what is happening in exile, what is our state. If you think about this very clearly and convincingly, then that will make you get up, go and do things. Otherwise, it will be like routine job, you do this, and at the end of the month, you'll get your salary. You really don't care whether the children are picking up anything or not. That's the problem. So there should be genuine commitment, should be able to see all these children as one's own child. Right. You see?
So Geshe, besides these commitments, what do you think is an innate quality in a teacher should have, or a teacher can develop in order for the students to receive the right kind of education and then blossom into their best self, not just academically but in real life also, and then maybe come back to contribute to the community's growth?
Most important thing, as is taught in Buddhism, is compassion. Because when you in the Tibetan traditional fields of education, whatever arts and crafts and system of knowledge and education you undertake, the most important motivating factor is compassion. If compassion means really feeling for that other person, how can I help this person able to live a better life, happier life, peaceful life? And especially these are my children, these are Tibetan children, these are children of a refugee community. If you have this kind of, I sometimes call it engine, if you have that engine in your heart or in your mind, then it will automatically move. If that engine is not there,
besides the teacher's willingness or the patience or the love for their students, as an administration, what can the administration do differently to see a better result?
And then also there should be public awareness.
Right.
In the public and in the administration, the government or whoever, they should highly regard the teachers. If that is not there, then this profession will go downhill. That's very, very important. But that is not so much there because our community, unfortunately, is not that enlightened. They talk about sending their children to the school, but there is not so much in-depth awareness and conviction about the importance of education. And I have in many of my talks, I've been repeatedly saying, unless the citizens of a nation is educated, that nation will reach nowhere. A clear example is how we lost our country. There was no modern education, no education of science, no education of technology. The only thing available was Buddhist practice. That also, except some individuals, that also mostly based on blind faith, just going around the temple and doing some prayer. How can you protect your country with this kind of way of life? So therefore, now is high time that we should wake up, right? And we have now started talking about self-sufficiency. And one of the best ways of becoming self-sufficient is that everybody should be educated so that they can easily get their job.
Geshe, as my last question, what do you think is the role of a parent in giving children the right education, the holistic education, as we say?
As His Holiness always says, parents, and especially mother, is the first teacher. Because the child has to spend most of its time with their parents. And during one of my visits to San Francisco, I was invited to give a talk to this weekend schools, around 100 of them there. So the parents and teachers there, they were saying, the students are not able to learn so many things, what should we do, things like that. Then I told them, unless things are taught in the home, it's difficult to learn anything, especially language, speaking, must be taught in the home. Reading, yes, in the classroom, the teachers can teach. But speaking is the responsibility of the parents. They pick up, they are very sharp. So they pick up very easily. And I've seen that myself during one of my visits to New York 2 years back. There are parents who really take good responsibility, and the kids there also, they are doing fantastic. The Tibetans are good, they are singing, dancing, prayer, everything is good. And then there are parents who completely neglect, they know nothing. Some of the kids, they know nothing. So this clearly shows, the parents play the most important role.
Thank you so much for your time, and thank you for your valuable insights, not just today, but always.
Thank you.
Thank you. That is all for this week's episode. To watch more interviews or other Tibettv's content, visit our social media pages on Facebook, Instagram, and SoundCloud. Thank you for joining us. I will see you in the next episode of In Conversation with Tibettv.